The police started militarizing sometime around 2014. And by militarization, I mean that's when the police started acquiring more and more military grade lethal weapons. Lethal weapons which should not be required for ordinary policing. And the backdrop for the militarization of the police force was unfortunately uh, the massacre of Hafez al-Islam activists in Shabla chapter in 2013. That was sort of the backdrop which started the militarization process. And this ended up with the police acquiring 12 times. I think we analyzed police procurement between 2019 and 2023, I believe. I could have to cross check the years again. But we found that the police had procured 12 times more lethal weapons than non-lethal weapons. And for our particular investigation, we actually took lead pellets as non-lethal weapons, which we all know that lead pellets they may be less lethal, but they're just as dangerous when used against protesters. As the position paper said, there've been at least 550 people, I believe, have been blinded because of lead pellets, and lead pellets have killed people during the July uprising, as we've seen. So we were being very conservative, like, okay, fine, let's just anything upwards of lead pellets, anything which is with an explosive quality is going to be categorized as a lethal weapon. And then that's when we found that the police procured more than 12 times more lethal weapons than non-lethal weapons, which goes to show what the policy was regarding policing for the last couple of years. And it started from basic 9mm Glocks to submachine guns, 7.62 MMs. They even had a Browning machine gun. A Browning machine gun is something that's supposed to be used to shoot aerial objects. The only firing range where a police officer can practice using a Browning machine gun is in Bhattiyari. That's the only place where they'd be able to use that, because there's no other place in Bangladesh that's not population heavy, and you require two people to operate this. Now, we don't have any evidence that this machine gun the Browning machine gun was actually used during the July uprising. We have not been able to collect evidence regarding that. But the point is, the civilian force that's meant to do civilian policing is equipped with such heavy artillery that's meant to take down aerial objects. It blows my mind. It defies logic at this point. It was of course a big reason for the amount of procurement that they did and the kind of expensive procurement that they did. A big reason for that was of course corruption, because big ticket purchases end up with bigger kickbacks for the people involved. But at the same time, we have to remember that having this in their artillery meant that the police force, which are often given less training, less firing and less shooting training than someone in the army would receive, are being equipped with the same equipment as them. If you go into their curriculum, you'll find that they're probably allowed 20 shots a year, or they're taken to a firing range once a year and then given very, very basic training on how to shoot a gun. Whereas these are all very, very sophisticated artillery that they're now being handled with. And there has to, the whole conversation about police reform did also talk about stripping the police of the privilege to use lethal weapons. That conversation died down very quick. It was drowned out with conversations about what to do in highly sensitive areas where, like the CHT, where the police are often they encounter armed groups. And I mean, that's just for the CHT. It's not even for the entirety of Bangladesh, but somehow that one example was enough to drown out the whole conversation about stripping police of the right to carry lethal weapons. What happened during the entire time is not only did the conversation die down, but the Ansar VDP force, the Village Defense, I forget what P stands for, but it's essentially a group of volunteers that the Ansar, I don't know if everyone here knows what Ansar is, I'm hoping everyone does. but the Ansar can call upon this volunteer force, pay them a measly daily stipend to work for them, say during election cycles or to guard temples during Durga Puja, things like that. They were given lethal weapons training. They were trained to operate 7.62 mm. So now we have, and this training was given to hundreds of these volunteers. So now we have a whole group of youth in the villages who know how to operate a 7.62 mm. I don't know how we are not more frightened by this. It's not, yeah, it's, so forget talks about reform. We have gone nowhere about it. We've been having conversations about universal military training for the youth. So somehow we're just going towards a future, we're propelling towards a future where demilitarization is really not in the conversation anymore. We've not had any conversation about what has happened to all of these weapons that were in the police's artillery. We do know that they're not necessarily using 7.62 mm when tackling protesters anymore. We've not seen them do that. They're mostly just using rubber bullets and tear gas these days. But what have been done with those? Who owns them now? Does the police still have access to them? If I'm a police officer, can I just go and pick up a 7.62 mm if I want to? Is it really as simple as that anymore? These are the questions which have really not been answered. We're talking about how politicians use the police force. I want to go back to a more molecular level here. We all use the police force. It's very ingrained in the society. Like you said, it's a very trust deficit society. It's not a trust-based society. And anyone in contact or in conflict with the law, it could be something as simple as a nasty divorce ending up in the courts. It happens that the general public on a daily routine basis, they do use and abuse privileged access to the police. It's something that's very common here. So we would probably need to have a more holistic overall on how the public views the police, but also how much access the public has in impacting investigations, in impacting the police. No political party will want to let go of control over the police force. They have not. If you cannot order a police officer to take him to remand by remand, I mean, of course, the period of detention in a police station where a detainee can be tortured without any oversight, without any judicial oversight. So every political party wants access to that privilege because it's essentially unfettered access to subject someone to torture for your own political gain. And that's something that no political party is going to let go of, that privilege. But at the moment that feels like a bigger battle to climb. And I really don't know what the solution to this is. We've been talking about this for years. We're somehow expected to accept all of this as a political reality.